Assalamualaikum and greeting to Madam Zuleka. This is Business Law and of Chapter presented by Group 4. This presentation will have two presenters. For the first one is Muhammad bin LOKMAN. For the second one is Muhammad SHAFIRMAN bin KADERI. Agency. An agency is a business entity that provides service to other businesses or individuals. Agency is a legal relationship between an agent, who is a person having the authority or a capacity to create legal relationship between a principal and third parties. Agency is a legal relationship which exists in employment law, corporate law, buying and selling of property, land and goods. Termination of agency based on Malaysian law. Business transaction. A business transaction is a financial transaction between two or more parties that involves the exchange of goods, money, or service. To engage in a business transaction, the business exchange must be measurable in monetary value so it can be recorded for accounting purposes. Business transaction will affect the financial of the company involved. Business transaction can be as simple as cash purchase or as complex as long-term service contract. To be considered as business transaction, the following characteristics must be present. The transaction can be measured in monetary terms. The transaction occurs between the business and third party. The transaction is on behalf of the business entity and it is not for individual purpose. The transaction is recorded by authorized legitimate document like invoice, sale order, receipt, and another that support the transactions. There are three ways an agency relationship can be terminated. For the first one, by operation of law. By operation of law, as an agency may terminate by operation of law upon the occurrences of the following events: where the party concerned is an individual, death, insanity, bankruptcy; where the party concerned is a limited company, winding up, receiverships. For the second one is by notice. If the agency agreement provides that the agency may be terminated upon either party serving on the other written notice of a specific duration, for example, 3-month written notice. Either party may terminate the agency agreement by serving the required notice on the other parties. However, if the agency agreement does not certain any termination provisions, the general rule is that reasonable notice has to be given to the other parties to terminate the agency. For the third one is renunciation by agent. An agent is entitled to renounce his power by refusing to act or by notifying the principal that he will not act for the principal. Unilateral termination of the agency by the agent before he has fulfilled his obligations to the principal under the agency agreement will render the agents liable to the principal for a breach of the agency agreement, such as payment of damage for a loss suffered by principals.
And hi, my name is Muhammad bin LOKMAN HAKIM, and I will continue with the principle of nemo that quote non-habit rule. What is the nemo dat quod non habet? The legal principle nemo dat quod non habet means no one can give what he has not established, that a person cannot transfer ownership of a property that they do not have legal title to. However, there are the exceptions to this rule. First is a legal rule, sometimes called the nemo dat quod rule, that states that the purchase of a possession from someone who has no ownership right to it also denies the purchaser any ownership title. And next is the importance in property transaction. The nemo dat quod non habet rule is crucial in property transaction, particularly institution where the transferor acquired the property illegally or lacks clear title, as it protects the right of good faith buyers and maintain the integrity of the property market. And then it helps to maintain the integrity of property transaction and deter the fraudulent transfer, ensuring that the individuals are held accountable for their actions. And lastly, it serves to protect the interests of both the buyer and original owner of the goods, and is widely recognized and applied in jurisdiction following the common law tradition. And there is 3 exceptions to the nemo dat quod non habet. Firstly is a estoppel. Secondly is a sale by a seller in a possession after sale, and thirdly is sale by a buyer in possession after sale. And I will proceed with the first one, which is estoppel. Estoppel is a legal principle that prevents a person from making claims or denying facts that contradict their previous statement or actions, if doing so would be unfair to another party who has relied on those previous statements or action. The purpose of estoppel is to promote fairness, honesty, and consistency in legal dealings. It stops people from making advantage of others by changing their position in a way that would be unfairly detrimental to those who have relied on their previous statement or action. And next is a sale by a seller in possession after sale. The key points regarding this concept are: the seller has already sold the goods to a buyer, meaning the ownership has transferred to the buyer. However, the seller continues to retain physical possession or control of the goods. This can happen for various reasons, such as the seller needing to complete delivery, the buyer not yet taking delivery, or the seller having a lion or security interest in the goods. Even though the seller no longer owns the goods, they are still considered to be in possession of them. The seller's continued possession after the sale has occurred gives them certain rights and obligations under self-law. For example, the seller may have a duty to take reasonable care of the goods on behalf of the buyer. For summary for this section is, this concept is important in determining the rights and responsibility of the buyer and seller in the sale transaction, even after the initial sale has been completed. And finally, sale by a buyer in possession after sale. The key points regarding this concept are: the buyer has already purchased the goods from the seller, meaning the ownership has been transferred to the buyer. However, the buyer continues to retain physical possession or control of the goods. This can happen for various reasons, such as the buyer needing to use or store the goods before taking full delivery, or the seller allowing the buyer to retain possession for a period of time. Even though the buyer now owns the goods, they are still considered to be in possession of them. The buyer's continued possession after the sale has occurred gives them a certain right and obligation under self-law. For example, the buyer may have a duty to take reasonable care of the goods. And summary for this concept is important in determining the rights and responsibilities of the buyer and seller in the sales transaction, even after the initial sale has been completed. And that's all from me. Thank you.